This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Hello. We have got an interesting show ahead of us. We've had a heated backstage discussion, and I'm sure that's going to carry on into the episode. Not much news in the cycle this week. Just kidding. Every AI chatbot has been out on LinkedIn dropping in AI's thoughts.
We may get a Brandy rant on today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. So we're praying for it. I'm like, come on, please, Brandy, just get a little heated, just a little.
Just unleash.
Just have a little bit of a Monday morning energy. But
Will,
yes, what?
How was your weekend? We're starting off with you today.
Oh, dude, my weekend was good, but it was a little sad. The Nuggets lost 7th game. So that was a big bummer. And then the Formula One race, 2 of all my team just didn't get a first place podium. We got 2nd and 3rd, but wasn't the ultimate win that we wanted. So sports weren't that great this weekend, but overall, I'm rested, I'm ready, and excited for today's episode. Welcome back, Jamie Lane, by the way. How was your weekend? How was your interview and time with the CFO of Airbnb? It's a big flex.
I'll start with my weekend. It was great. My wife was out of town at a conference. I'm like, what? You get to go to conferences too? This isn't fair. So I had the kids. We had a blast, few birthdays, good times with friends. Drove up to the Mountain House yesterday morning. We're going to be out of town for a few weeks, so got supplies restocked, mowed the yard, check on the place, make sure it's still alive. All good.
You're being a good home host. That's what you are, Jamie. That's what you're
trying to. And then, was out in LA Monday through Wednesday for the Airbnb product release, which was, I'll say, Brandy and Will, you guys probably haven't experienced this week, but Michael, you ever walk into a room and you just feel like, wow, I am way too old. Like, these people are way too cool. You had all these travel influencers from all over the world in this for the product release. And I was like, for one of the first times, just feeling like, wow, like I'm feeling 40.
People are very trendy. They're very hip. Even Chesky in his mid 40s is way cooler than I am. But he's got fashion designers that he can call for services, and he's got private chefs waiting at his door. So I can see why he lives a different lifestyle.
I love
but
it.
Now we all have access to it.
Yeah. Well, Brandy, Michael, how was your guys' weekend? Brandy, you go first. Let's hear how Miami was doing.
Yeah, it's very hot. We are officially fully in summer. It's so humid. But I made homemade ravioli for the first time in a couple of years. I used to make it like pretty frequently. And I made a pistachio pesto and burrata one, and then a miso butter, onion, and mushroom one. And the second one was the best for sure.
I haven't had breakfast yet, so thanks a lot. I'm really hungry. That just made it worse. Sounds amazing. What about you, Michael?
So little man had the stomach bug, so it was messy. Yeah.
Oh.
No one else in the house has gotten it, so
knock on wood.
He's on the up and up. It was a long weekend.
Thank goodness.
We got back from the hotel that we're taking over in Virginia, and then spent the night in the hospital with little man. So fun. Yeah.
That's no good. That is no good. But give us a quick glimpse into this hotel. Come on, what's going on with this hotel? Tell us a little bit more, real quick. Just a little.
We're under contract right now, so aiming to close at the end of next month. A 22 key property outside of Charlottesville on the Appalachian Trail. So we'll have more details coming soon.
Lovely.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, speaking of excitement and all the fun stuff that's been in the news cycle, your LinkedIn feed has been probably super busy if you are an avid LinkedIn user like the four of us. But before we get into today's topics, please, if you are tuning into the live, let us know where you're tuning in from. We want to hear, A, your opinion on this update of Airbnb, B, where you're coming in from or calling in from, tuning in from, and C, just hi, good morning. We'd love to see you here. All right. So Jamie Lane, you were at the actual release update event in California with Airbnb. You sat down with Ellie, the CFO of Airbnb, and got to actually interview her about these updates, not only for services, experiences, but the actual app update itself as well. And you asked some pretty good questions. For any listeners, live viewers, go back. It's a 10-minute episode. It's really a great listen, totally worth listening to if you haven't already. But Jamie, tell us more about the event outside of feeling a little old when you walked in. And the other exciting stuff, because I know that, behind the stage, we're talking about Airbnb uses certain terminology. They're a PR media machine. They know how to talk about their product. They know how to talk about their brand. They know how to veer away maybe from harder discussion topics or maybe more negative topics around their updates and the way that the direction the company is going. But would love to know just, more details about the event and what you got to hear and see.
Yeah, so this was clearly a much more substantial release than they had last summer, right? Last summer we got icons. It was, I would say, more marketing PR than any sort of new product releases. And I feel like it was almost the exact opposite this time, where we got an entire new vertical and services. So they are, and in how I hear them describe it, like, really trying to go after hotels in the broader travel category of there's still, and 1 in 10 guests are only staying in short-term rentals. 9 in 10 are still staying in hotels. And what are the things that people are, that are staying in hotels sort of telling Airbnb why they're doing it is all these other services that you can get while you're at the property. You can get F&B, you can get room service, you can get massages, go to the spa, all these type of services that the properties offer. And in resort hotels, like almost 50% of the revenue that those hotels are generating come from these auxiliary services. So that this is a way to re-accelerate Airbnb's revenue growth. And I think more importantly, way to have Airbnb service or homes compete more directly with hotels. So this is clearly them seeing where their product doesn't meet what guests want, or at least a percentage of what guests want, and trying to make the product of short-term rentals more competitive with hotels, which I think grows the pie for everyone. So again, this is where Airbnb is thinking about long-term, about thinking of how to grow the pie overall for short-term rentals and make more people use that vertical. And less like Vrbo and Booking, where they're just trying to steal share from those that are already using short-term rentals. So excited about that. And then the relaunch of experiences. So they first launched this back in 2016. Not a huge lot of adoption. Then COVID, where they sort of pulled back. So this is now a total relaunch of the platform, a rebuild of the app from the ground up, and really trying to bring experiences into the entire booking flow. And when you go into the app, it sort of pops up front and center. After you make a home's booking, and they're going to then engage you into experiences 2 weeks before the stay. They're going to bring it in. You're going to be able to sort of build out your itinerary. So a real big bet in experiences they can really make it part of your booking experience.
For sure. And so, I don't know. I think I was a little kind of caught off guard when I saw this part being part of the update, because I think many of us were kind of expecting flights, hotels, other easy low-hanging fruit services or other things that we've talked about on the show before. But do you think I'm just curious from your perspective, Jamie, with the amount of the industry and the technology vendors that were already kind of going this way, right? A lot of people are already trying to push hosts and property management companies into the experiential hospitality side. At least I feel, right? Like everyone's kind of like, no longer can you just get a home, list it, manage it, clean it, and that's all you have to do with it. You have to really, truly kind of focus around the experience of the trip and the guest and kind of everything they're wanting outside of the actual accommodation. That's my personal opinion. Going that way.
Yeah, I think, and if you listen to Brian talk about it, and the rest of the sort of the executive team talks about it too, of perishable opportunities. So the opportunity to add flights and hotels sort of always exists, and like if they want to go and add it in eventually, like that's fine. But like this opportunity to get into services where you think about, where would I book a chef to come to my house? Like, there's no platform that comes to mind. Like, where would I go online to book a nail salon? Like, maybe to come to my house. Like, maybe there's a way to do it on local ones. Maybe I could. I almost said Google through ChatGPT. Search to be able to do it. But like, there's no platform that owns that space, and I think they really want to come in and be able to own that opportunity. And if they can and sort of add that onto the brand that they already have, use their booking system, use their review system, use their payment platform, use everything that they've already built to be able to launch and come into this space, that's a huge opportunity that if they don't come in and own it, someone else might.
I think that you said something very key though earlier, that where the hotels, 50% of their revenue comes from F&B and these other ancillary services, and that this is a way for Airbnb, not any of the hosts or companies that are on Airbnb, to benefit from that. And so I think that that's why people seem to, I mean, yes, there's the benefit of getting people who might want to book a hotel and instead will book a short-term rental. I still think that this doesn't still have the same feel as a hotel. I mean, there's only so many ways you can get the same services into a home, but the hosts aren't getting a commission or anything like that for being part of it. And I think that's where some of the discontent that we've seen on online has come from, that this is, hotels are making that on property, and this is how Airbnb is making this, online, and like, how are the hosts going to benefit from this and see that directly?
Yeah, it makes no sense why they wouldn't build a commission in for the people whose property is being used. Even Brandy, if you're selling third-party stuff, you're typically getting a cut from whoever. So
it's a referral fee, basically.
It's a referral fee. I mean, you even get that. Well, some hosts tie that in with restaurants. Like, hey, you get 5% off, 10% off going to this restaurant, and then you also get a kickback. So there's those things have existed forever, even in hotels. Like the concierge has their people they send them to because they get kickbacks. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm with Will. I fully expected and kind of hoped Airbnb would go down more of the hospitality OTA lane. If you want to live like a local and keep that brand identity of Airbnb, sign up all the best boutique hotels around the world. That's a home run. That's in line with the brand. Jamie, to your point, is there a platform for a private chef? Is there a platform for nails or hair, photography, or all that? Probably, but not at scale. Love that business model. It's not Airbnb's name and brand, though. So, like, if Brian wants to go build that platform, do it and integrate it with Airbnb. But the name Airbnb is synonymous with stays and like living like a local, the things they've hammered in to all of us for the past 15 years. But it's not like a services, it's not Angie's List, right? It should be its own brand. And it should be integrated deeply and maybe use all the same tech and the same payment platform systems, and use the traffic from Airbnb into, instead of toggling into services, it redirects you to a different platform. I think if they're successful, they're putting their brand at risk of kind of losing the clout that they've built over the past 5 years.
See, Michael, but my comment or question to you is like, why live like a local when you can just live, right? Like Airbnb is just wanting to go
Look,
more live.
I love the business. I'm
look.
not saying I hate what they've done. I just
know.
hate that they did it under the Airbnb brand.
See, this is why I don't hate it, because if you use your own comment of Brian Chesky thinks in decades, right? Think about how the social media component of the app updates are going into this and getting people to be more in real life, more connected, more through them. So eventually, yes, right now at this time, saying, oh, I had this great private chef last night that, it was an amazing Airbnb experience or service or whatever that people are talking about. And the name no longer becomes a Kleenex. It's becoming Airbnb this. It's more than a home. It's more than an experience. It's more than a service, whatever. People start kind of saying it. It's not together with that other activities and stuff. I think it's more like a lifestyle thing. It's not going to be an OTA. And I think that's why Airbnb, and it's not to be in the extreme, and it's not for me to be like, oh, this is exactly where they're going and using one of my predictions. But just from the way Brian looks and acts, it's just like, hey, look, he wants connection. He talks about that as many as more than most entrepreneurs talk about. And I think the social media in real life piece is really coming to play here.
But shareholder value, Will. That's really important.
Shareholder value just needs to be educated for a decade of what's going to happen to their amazing shares and growth. Because like Airbnb does a GDP of I forgot what country Brian talked about.
Italy, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Italy. It's just like the GDP of some country.
Some reasonable real country. Right.
Yeah, it's enough money to not like blink an eye at. And I think that's just the beginning. If we think 10 years and then get incorporated into people's actual livelihood, their day to day, that's what every hospitality brand fails at right now, is to become a lifestyle brand. No one goes home from their Courtyard Marriott experience and thinking about Courtyard Marriott and how much they love the brand, right? Like they're not living it in their day to day. Once they're living in their day to day, I think it's a whole new game changer.
I don't know about y'all. I would love to live a private chef in my day to day. I'm not there. Maybe
same.
one day, but.
But think about the number of times that you travel, like 3 or 4 times a year. Think about the number of and maybe times you might want a private chef, like your wife's and yours anniversary, maybe and your kid's birthday, or like friends getting married. Like there's special occasions, like you might want to get friends together and either hire Brandy to come cook at your house or get a private chef.
Yeah, if I'm not available, you can hire one through Airbnb.
But I did want to comment on Brandy and what you said earlier, because that was a sort of question I asked Ellie, their CFO, was like, what is the ultimate benefit for hosts and all these services being offered at their place? And essentially, like, she was like, there's not one unless you're offering these services. And like what hotels do is employ the people that offer all of these services. But to your point too, like if they wanted, I think, to see mass adoption of these services, like give hosts a share of that revenue being generated. Like if they're generating a 20% sort of service fee, give 5% of that to hosts, and you would turn like the 5 million hosts out there into some of your biggest sort of sales force. And like, if you're looking at the Facebook comments today, the biggest question is not like, how can I find services to offer in my property? It's how do I opt out of services? And that's the exact opposite of what you'd want the response to be when you offer this great new platform for offering services in your rentals.
Well, keep in mind, all of Airbnb's moves are always catered towards the single host. And Brandy, you guys have access to private chefs in Miami because you guys have hundreds of units, and it's a request that comes up over and over again. Jamie, has that request come up for your one unit in North Georgia?
Say that again.
Request for a private chef coming into your house.
No. Yeah. I mean, actually, I have gotten requests on like, are they allowed to have caterers at the property? Because it is a 5-bedroom large property. They're wanting to have friends. So like, can they offer or do larger things? Like, absolutely. I'd say, and I was a little bit distracted. I did just ask Airbnb, my contact there, whether or not you get sort of brought down in the algorithm if you opt out. and they did just live respond that no, like if you opt
Not
out,
yet.
Not yet. I don't believe that.
You're not going to be ranked lower in the search algorithm.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that one of the things that really struck me about this, so you have like the launch day, and there's a lot of articles everywhere. A lot of them are super positive, like how Brian Chesky is going to change your life. There was the one, I think, from Wired. We were talking about it earlier. Is this his midlife crisis? But most of the stuff was positive. And then you have this like incredible backlash from all of the hosts and property managers. And for what, like, this was like the anti-Brandy rant. I just felt, I was like, this seemed very like, okay to me. Like, I don't think this is like earth shattering. I think it's cool. These are great things to add. It could enhance a vacation. I don't think this is like groundbreaking. And it felt very strange. I was like, am I missing something in this component? Like, but I just felt like this was like cool, not groundbreaking, not the end of the world. Diversify your platforms. Don't rely on one. And, something else, like there'll be something else, and everybody will forgot the vitriol that they spewed on LinkedIn, in a couple months.
I kind of feel the same way with the sense that we already knew Experiences was coming back. So the fact that that was one of the quote unquote big updates was like, okay, cool. We already knew that. So I guess that was my same sentiment that I felt there, Brandy, where it's like, okay, like we already knew this was coming. Why is this a big, shocker?
Yeah.
But Jamie, you also had some interesting Expedia data that came out recently. So I'd love for you to share some of those, and we can jump into that before we wrap up the episode.
Yeah. So Expedia had their sort of partner get together last week around the same time. I didn't get an invite to that. So Tim, if you're listening and want to extend one next time, be happy to show up. I think all of us would be happy to show up and cover. And what I was sort of focused in on was sort of the AI updates. Expedia's talked a lot around AI and how they're going to be incorporated into the platform. And what I love, like, we're not seeing some wholesales like rebuild of the platform around AI. Like, they're knocking off the low-hanging fruit, which it's good to see, like AI filters, AI itinerary builder, AI like flight deal analyzer sort of things. That one was cool. We might have talked about it, like the Instagram sort of connection with Expedia. So you see something cool on Instagram, just like shoot it to Expedia. They're going to find where it is and sort of build an itinerary around it. So like I don't think anything that really moves the needle for them, but just like starting to build AI into sort of our everyday booking activity, I think makes it a bit better, probably makes us convert a bit more. And I think ultimately makes the whole sort of travel booking experience a little bit more enjoyable.
I did see also, I really love the Instagram kind of like reverse image search, because there's so many times where I'm like, this looks so cool. And then I save it and then it gets lost in my saved categories or trips I'm going to take, and then I never see it again. So I think that's fun. And again, like you said, not like going to move the needle significantly, but over time, that's something that could build. And then two other things. Well, it's one other thing, but two partnerships, Southwest and Ryanair partnerships, because especially Ryanair, I mean, that is like how you're getting around Europe for the most part. So that is, I think those are great partnerships. And Southwest has been very elusive always. And, now you have to pay for bags and you can find them on Expedia. So they're finally caving.
And I think Expedia is laying the groundwork. Their B2B business is huge. It's like one of their core messages. They're laying the groundwork to where they don't have to be the OTA anymore. Influencers can be the OTA. And so, this image search, I think, bold prediction, not so bold maybe, is in the not too distant future, influencers are going to have their own UTMs that can track all the conversions that go through Expedia and from their travel experiences. And when we get to that world, slowly but surely, OTAs become somewhat obsolete. And maybe that's what Airbnb is seeing, and that's why they're adding some of these additional routes to monetize. But if you can just book a property off of I follow Jamie and I see that he went somewhere with his family and his 2 boys, and that looks awesome. Why don't I just go stay there? That seems like a pretty plausible next step for one of the OTAs to jump in first. And, to me, the obvious candidate is going to be Expedia, given how strong their B2B is, how much they're already talking about social media and Instagram and influencers. But back to the whole start of this equation, you need to cut in the influencers, just like Airbnb needs to cut in the hosts. If you want to be promoting our inventory, or if you want me to promote your inventory, then cut me into the take.
And I think that's a really much more easily trackable, having that UTM, you can have I think that's kind of a seamless way to monetize that and to have the influencers benefit. And I feel like Expedia, we're talking about Airbnb and maybe some of the things we wish they'd done. It still feels like Expedia is beating Airbnb in the integration front, like being the powerhouse behind so many credit cards and, all those kinds of things. So that's kind of looping back to Airbnb, something I wish they would also start to focus on, because Expedia really kind of has the lead in that department.
Yeah, I very much agree with both you and Michael. I think you both had really good points there. I actually agree with you guys for once. Who would have thought?
No fights.
No fight. No Brandy rants. Nothing.
And it'll be an interesting sort of case study after the fact of whether or not Airbnb just trying to relaunch or build entire new categories versus sort of lean in like Booking and Expedia are doing into, we want to own the vertical. We want to do B2B. We want to each of these things that Booking and Expedia are doing are all incremental, but incremental to growth. And how much of Expedia's revenue is now B2B? It's massive. So yes, is that opportunity sort of perishable for Airbnb? Probably not, but could it be that re-accelerator for growth that they need versus trying to build an entirely new category? And it's a bet obviously they're willing to make, but there is maybe big risk to the downside if none of these do end up taking off.
Yeah, for sure. And to wrap up today's episode, one kind of fun topic and a shout out to the friend of the pod, but Robin Cragen and the Moving Mountains team has received a significant amount of investment into the company, as Stay Terra, a new collection, is coming on the scene. And one of the questions I want to ask you guys about this little news story, for listeners listening to the episode, the press release is linked in the show notes. But one of the stories of the year, obviously, is going to be probably the biggest story of the year, was the Vacasa acquisition, which we're still kind of riding the coattails of. But we've talked about a lot about franchises versus non-franchise, all this other stuff. We never talked really about the collection piece, where a group comes in and buys or has investment or control over different companies in different markets. And I would love to know, do you guys think the collection model is it going to be a potentially successful model for the vacation rental industry? Because I know Robin pretty well. He's a good friend, and he's a very particular dude. Him and Heather have built this brand over 30 years. And so to accept this type of capital investment into Moving Mountains is a big deal, because Robin doesn't make partnerships or moves like this without any, let's just say, due diligence. Let's just say this has been in the works for 2 years. I talked to him on the phone shortly, the day before this announcement went live. So I'm curious, just on the sense of that's a big move for him, but it's a kind of a sign to me of okay, if Robin's willing to take investment, and a significant chunk too, a controlling amount of Moving Mountains from go ahead.
I think that it kind of depends on what your business goals are. And if there's certain things, if you're in the luxury space, if they're trying to add, instead of 1 or 2 homes at a time or 1 or 2 boats at a time or whatever it is, you have to have some serious capital investment. Things are becoming more expensive. And I think that it makes sense that people are taking money. There's nothing wrong with investment, and especially if he's, been at it for 30 years, he might want some help.
it's a great sign of the maturing of the industry too. Like, companies are getting big enough that private equity is interested. Away Day also got some funding. It's a good sign, and I think private equity, in this case, unless they've got a roll-up strategy, is more inclined to try and keep everything in place as it is, and then find their own efficiencies from there, i.e. probably lay people off. But I think ultimately it's a good sign for the industry. We're not having Vacasa run around buying literally anybody that would sell to them just to add units and grow. Like, private equity is going to make sure the numbers are solid and financial. And a guy like Robin, who's been doing it for 25 years, all of his equity is tied up in the business. So the only way to unlock that equity is to sell a portion of it. So it makes total sense.
Yeah. He will be selling as CEO, by the way. So it's not like private equity where they're going to come in and start chopping away Michael. But it's a good investment from the group. No, it's not.
It is private equity. Like, it's Garnett Station Partners that is and owns Stayterra. Call out that Verma Executive Summit. We've got a panel with Principal Rafi at Garnett Station Properties, Jacob Dwyer from Away Day, and Joseph Riley from Casago. So some companies making big moves in the space and getting up on stage together and sort of talking strategy. So I think that's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be a very fun one for guys like you, Jamie, who love all the numbers, who love all the data. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty.
I just there's some big companies making moves, like buying movement or investing in Moving Mountains, like big moves, like the amount of behind the scenes stuff that Joe Riley sort of putting together this Casago deal has been doing. And then Away Day, they took huge investment. So there's big money moving into this space, and this is going to be I think a fun summer for short-term rental investment.
You heard it here first, folks. Jamie Lane speaking truth, dropping bombs. No, I love it. This was such a fun episode and a lot of topics to unpack, but I feel like we articulated a lot of good stuff today. You guys brought the heat. I like it.
We were well caffeinated with our well and good coffee this morning. I don't think anyone is going to accuse us of not bringing the energy this morning. So grab your coffee.
100%. If you want to be just like us, grab your coffee. Jamie, anything exciting? I know we asked this last time you were on, but after we had you on the week prior, we had Madeline List on from Focusrite, which was a great episode. Then we had you on today. So we've had a pretty packed cadence of content, plus our GMH EU crew and a bunch of our other GMH universe content is just going wild and banana. So would love to know what's on in your world, Jamie Lane.
And heading up to DC this afternoon for the Cornell Hospitality Analytics Forum. So that's going to be a blast. A whole bunch of hospitality data nerds getting together. And then that's 4 weeks in a row of travel. And then next week, I'll be taking a vacation, heading to the beach, Litchfield Beach. And on the way, stopping in Durham for my grandfather's 95th birthday. So pretty excited about that.
Big longevity.
Seriously. Yeah. You gotta see what's running in that family gene pool. See how long you're gonna last there, Jamie. See if you can make it. Can you get to 95? We'll find out.
I'm hoping. He's my senior, James Harvey Lane, my namesake. Yeah.
Love it. Well, happy birthday to him. B, how's Grandma B? Come on.
Oh, she's good. She's up in Saratoga having a good spring, but I'm heading actually to Detroit next weekend. I'm going to a big music festival called Movement. Detroit's like the birthplace of house and techno, so it's we'll see if I think
Berlin might challenge that, but
no, Berlin adopted it. The Detroit is the birthplace, and so this is like it's gonna be fun. It's my first time going, so we'll see. Gonna be a lot of naps. I cannot.
Is mom going?
No, my mom is not going. Not this time.
Bummer. Cool. Yeah, nothing crazy here. I was on the road last week, so I'm home this week.
Lovely.
Back to backs, Jamie. I don't know how you do back to backs. That's
a lot.
Good on you and your wife.
Yeah, lots of family support.
Yeah,
100%. Well, for me, I am staying put for a while. I may be in New York. I'm going to be in New York for the Data and AI Summit hosted by Skift. So shout out to them for putting on another great conf. That will be June 4th. So if anyone else is in town, you should hit me up. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning in to Good Morning Hospitality. I'm one of your amazing hosts, Will Slickers. We have Michael Golden, Brandy Canali, Jamie Lane on today. If you've never heard us before, check us out more. And of course, like and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. And like always, we'll see you guys again next week.